Perfectionism isn't actually about striving for excellence. It's about fear. And it's driven by the fear that being seen as not enough is the fear, is that people won't think you're enough. Then we control how we want others to perceive us.
So is that like performance anxiety?
It's like perfectionism anxiety.
It's like me, the 70-year-old talking to the 30-year-old that's trapped inside, saying, sure, you used to be able to do that, girl, but
Right.
now you got to even ask yourself if it's worth doing, much less being really good at it.
Welcome back to Unapologetic Rabble Rousers. I'm Doc Shelley.
And I'm Carla Lewis. And we just can't stop having fun with this notion about people pleasing and such. Today, what we're going to look at is perfectionism and mask wearing. Okay? So this is taking a look at how perfectionism is fueling us to be people pleasers and keeps us stuck behind masks that once we get them on and we train people to recognize them, it's hard to get them off. So let's dig in.
Yeah, perfectionism. Whew. We've talked a little bit about this before, but it's like when we feel the need to be perfect, we're really putting on that mask to hide the flaws or what might be perceived as flaws. And that keeps us stuck, to your point, in that people-pleasing mode, hiding behind our masks. And how do we start to let go of that?
I'm thinking that the first thing, like in any good recovery program, the first step is awareness.
Yeah.
And in the last episode, we talked a bit about becoming aware of when these people-pleasing behaviors or even considerations start popping up. And we've trained ourselves, as well as those around us, to expect certain things from us. And we ended the last episode talking about recognizing boundaries that perhaps we need to strengthen, if not completely create, because they've never been there in the first place. That first step is being aware of the fact that we actually are applying this tactic.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then once we figure we are, there's got to be a why.
Totally. I agree with everything you're saying. And I think when we really think about the definition of perfectionism, something I heard that I really liked was that perfectionism isn't actually about striving for excellence. It's about fear. And it's driven by the fear that being seen as not enough is the fear, is that people won't think you're enough. And then we control how we want others to perceive us.
So is that like performance anxiety?
It's like perfectionism anxiety.
Right. But the notion, okay, how would a person judge just by seeing you that you're not enough? There are people who will make those snap judgments. We know all about the biases that affect interactions between people, expectations, assumptions, all of that crap.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I call it like I see it.
All good.
Okay. But what is it that they're seeing that comes up as being not enough, not good enough? And I think that's where the performance question comes in, right? Because if what I'm doing is I'm wearing a mask, then I am performing. Mm-hmm. I am not being me. I'm being the me I think is going to garner the most comfortable reaction or response from whoever I'm performing for. And when we're performing, we may be doing a really good job, but it's not about being authentic. Mm-hmm. It's trying to be who we think others want to see. How off base?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And I think it also goes to those stories that we tell ourselves. If people see me make a mistake, they're going to think less of me. I remember someone shared this analogy with me years ago when we were talking about perfectionism, and gymnasts came up and how they those elite gymnasts train their whole young lives because they retire at 22. But they train for years to be in the Olympics and to get those tens. But what happens every time a gymnast falls off the balance beam or falls off the bars or stumbles, doesn't stick their landing? The crowd goes, and then they're anxiously awaiting for that person to get up and recover. They're not going, oh, she sucks. She's not going to get a 10. She's the worst gymnast on the planet. They don't do that. The whole crowd is with you, cheering you to get back up and go at it again. You made a mistake. You made a huge fall. You faltered. The whole stadium is on your side. We have a problem applying that to our own lives in these little tiny ways with one person, one situation.
Because, well,
And the people that matter are always going to be on your side.
That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. And I think there's an intimacy component that if I'm in front of that whole stadium of people, it's really me and the balance beam. It's really me and the floor mat or whatever might be the performance venue. But when it's me and people.
Oh, don't be mistaken. Those gymnasts, yes, it is them and whatever apparatus they're using. They also want to please that crowd. They also want to get the 10.
And so they really want to please the judges.
And then think of Simone Biles, who not this past Olympics, but the one before, like she had to tap out. And the level of support she had was pretty incredible. Yeah, there were some people that were whatever, but the level of support she had when she was like, I have to take care of my mental health. At some point, this is going to be a physical problem for me because she had the spins, and it was pretty incredible to see how much support she garnered. But the pressure that these elite athletes are put on is just tremendous from the media, their coaches. People expect perfection. It's impossible.
And so where do we get off expecting perfection, expecting the people around us are demanding perfection? I mean, what is up with that? If there's any imperfect person on the planet, it's me. And I've had to face that, sometimes wittingly, sometimes unwittingly. But the fact is that after a fashion, it's not about me being imperfect. It is about me being authentic. It is about me knowing that I'm giving the best of what I have at all times. Even when I'm just sitting around, I'm doing a fine job of it, the best job I could do. It wasn't always that case. I've had that whole notion of perfectionism has frozen me. And it has taken some time to get over myself. Seriously.
Get over myself.
Get over myself. Get over me. I'm not perfect.
What?
I care, but I'm not
I thought
perfect.
you were.
Oh, I know. I'm sorry. Here we are. Public disclosure. So sorry to disappoint.
Oh, I'm so disappointed, Carla. God, I don't know if I should do this podcast with you anymore.
I know, really.
No, but really, Carla, what if you think about what's a moment in your life, if you have any, where perfectionism held you back?
Oh, absolutely. And I can think about this, and I still get that feeling in the pit of your stomach. And it was in my work world. And I was, you're going to find this funny, I was scared to death to speak in meetings or in front of anybody. I could sing. I sang at weddings and all that, no problem. But speaking up at work, couldn't do it. So the last thing I wanted to do was be visible. I just wanted to be, I was a technology person. I just wanted to be heads down coding programs and doing tech weenie stuff, and that was fine. But I was going up in ranks, which meant that I had to have a leadership role. And
Hmm.
that meant being visible and vocal. And so I had to go to this effective presentations class where you had to get up and give speeches on stuff and then get critiqued.
Did they record you?
Yes, this is in the days of VCRs and VHS tape.
Hmm.
Okay. And I remember standing up front. I wanted to go first just because I could not handle waiting. I just needed to get it over with. It's like eat the frog first.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brian Tracy. But I was up there, my knees were knocking. I mean, I had quivering lips, the whole thing. I was scared to death. This is a group of 18 people, co-workers, most of whom I didn't know. And I went through that and I didn't die.
And you didn't get pregnant.
And I didn't get
As
pregnant.
my coach would always say.
Oh my God. But what was funny is that and I know I talked about this before, there was a technical issue. And so the recording didn't actually get my voice. It just got the video.
That's right.
And what they did is make it into a study of body language and facial expressions and the component of the speech that has nothing to do with what you say. And I was fascinated. I was watching myself
Hmm.
and something broke open. And they haven't been able to shut me up since.
Thank God for that.
But it was it was holding me back. It was holding me back. And like I said, that from that moment forward, and I was not good. And I'm not claiming good now. I'm claiming best I can be. And unabashedly, unapologetically anxious to be able to convey to the world the messages I was brought here to deliver.
Hmm.
So it was a breakthrough for me.
That's awesome.
How about for you?
You know, it's funny. I can think of several times where growing up, we kind of had this unspoken rule in my family that if you can't be perfect, it wasn't worth doing. So
Mm,
there was a lot of things that I wasn't the best at. And so I stopped doing them. And it's really funny how those early scripts that we get in life
mhm.
carry through. So I am 56 years old and I know better. I've been working on this a long time. And on Friday at my pickleball league, this is the team league that I play on. So, like, my results don't just impact me, but they impact my whole team. My team does not have a very good record this year. And I said to our captain, I was like, if you just want to get a sub for the rest of the season, I would understand. Like, I've only won one match, which is not at all like me. And I don't like it. I'm competitive and I want to freaking win.
Mhm.
And these players, they're just better players than me. And I said, I feel like the weak link on the team. And if you want to get a sub for the rest of the season, I would totally understand. And he was like, getting a sub for the rest of the season. He's like, yes, I'm competitive, but I also want to have fun. And we're having great matches. It's not like you're getting wiped out 25-0. No, so it was just kind of funny. But and as I was driving home, I thought, what is wrong with you? Like you were recruited for this team. You were drafted for this team. And I am competitive and I am in the matches. I'm not getting wiped off the court. It's just frustrating to me that I've only won one match out of I don't know how many we've played. But and so my team is in last place. And he's like, you're not the only one contributing to that. But it's amazing to me how that script is still lurking in the back of my head and
Sure.
shows up in those moments where I'm like, I feel less than. I feel less than because I don't know if I'm not playing my best. I think I'm playing my best. I don't know. But it's just like I'm playing players that are better than me. So of course they're going to win.
There is also a you from not all that long ago that was so very competitive and so very in tennis and in
Mhm.
volleyball and whatever else, golf. And so there's that other thing that says, but you know what? Right now, I look back, I can do this. I am very good. I have proven that I'm very good. So why am I feeling like I'm not that good right now? Pisses me off.
It
It's
does.
like me, the 70-year-old talking to the 30-year-old that's trapped inside, saying, sure, you used to be able to do that, girl, but
Right.
Now you got to even ask yourself if it's worth doing, much less being really good at it. You
Exactly.
make different decisions as you go.
Yeah. It's funny that you say that because I want to start going back to the gym more regularly. And so it was like, you got to get your mindset right there before you even start paying a monthly fee because you're not going to be able to go in there and pick up where you left off.
Hmm.
Not going to happen. It's like I work out at home all the time, but it's different when you go to the gym. And I'm at that point where now I got to amp it up a little bit more.
Hmm.
But it was like, I got to get into the right frame of mind to be able to go and not expect perfection and not expect to pick up right where I left off. But the higher achiever in me, the I can handle everything mask that I like to wear
Hmm.
is no, go in, do it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't let yourself off the hook. So, as individuals are considering this, where might I have this issue with perfectionism? And where do I feel like I'm held back from what I think I'm here to do or the work that I'm trying to engage with, whatever? Being able to say, okay, where do I feel like I'm being held back? And if you have anything that pops, the first place you have to check about that anchor that's keeping you from what you want or need to do, it starts with you. You need to check it.
Yes. And I think it's important to recognize that perfection is not even achievable. None of us are perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect. And having that vision of perfectionism or that need for perfectionism, that mask of perfectionism, is really keeping you stuck in a cycle of self-criticism. That's that's all it is. And it's robbing you of your joy, your creativity, and the ability to really connect with other people. The promise of perfection lies in security, and it's a fallacy.
You think about the energy that you are robbing from yourself when you invest so much of it in that critical reflection on yourself. I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. Here's how I'm not perfect. Here's how I'm really crappy. Here's how I'm not worth it. Here's how I'm unworthy.
Yeah.
There's a spiral that you don't need to go in. It's like getting flushed down a toilet. Don't do it. Don't
That
do it.
was a
You
little
see yourself
visual.
getting near the rim, don't fall in.
Yeah. Exactly. And don't let that fear of failure prevent you from trying new
Yeah.
things. Like when I started playing pickleball, I had a couple friends that were playing, but they prefer tennis. They all can still play tennis. They all still do play tennis, but they were curious about pickleball. So they invited me to come try it out with them. And I'm the only one of us that really latched on and was like, I'm going to go do this. And a couple of them have commented how cool they thought it was that I just went and started going to pickleball socials. I found like I was going by myself. I didn't have it's easier to go to those things with a friend. And I just started doing it. And they were like, I love that you just dove in because you liked the sport. And we're like, I'm gonna go find some new friends. But and it was interesting for me because I never thought about playing the game perfectly. I was new to the game. So that perfection is a mask that often shows up when you try new things just totally didn't even exist for me. But now that I'm in it and I'm competitive and I'm playing on all these leagues, now the perfectionism is amping up because I want to win. And to win, you can't have unforced errors.
And it's not necessarily about being perfect. It's about improving in areas where,
I have to remind myself of that.
yeah,
Yes.
okay, all right.
Because every time I hit the ball into the net, I'm like, big dummy.
I have those moments when, not pickleball, but those moments where my version of hitting it into the net and
Yeah.
I hear my mother's voice, idiot. Not that she was calling me an idiot, but it was her favorite word. So
My mother's would be, why did you do that? Well, I didn't do it on purpose.
stuff happens. But you think about the things we learned from way back when, and we talked
Yeah.
about it in the last episode, I think, that the approval and disapproval, it started with our second breath.
Yeah. And those neural pathways run deep. As much as we can gravel over them, we can grow some grass on top of them, we can throw some soil in there, they still sprout up.
That's right. And sometimes when you least need them too.
Yes. Yes. So we think about perfectionism. How do we start to let go of it? Like, what's your journey? How did you start to let go of perfectionism?
For me, it started with the I'm going to say excitement about discovering that I wasn't going to die or get pregnant if I spoke out in a group, if I led a conversation, if I chose to help facilitate a meeting, if I ended up running full conferences, and mediating panel discussions and all of that, that it was fun. What I discovered, and was it because it had always been fun, but I didn't know how to have the fun? But something inside me just let go. It was about holding myself back because I was afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I'm not sure what I was afraid of, but it would certainly have included being imperfect, messing up what I was going to say. And I enjoy speaking, not because I love the sound of my voice, but that is a huge opportunity for me to share what it is I think I'm here to share,
Mm-hmm.
to be able to help provoke thought. I'm a thought leader. And if my thoughts don't get out there, what good are they? So I enjoy it. I enjoy it now. And I
Mm-hmm.
can't say that I went through any real concentrated thing. I had a moment and I saw that it wasn't all that scary.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't need to be. I was putting a whole lot more into being afraid of it than it deserved. And so I stretched. You quoted a few podcasts ago. Wonderful quote. You said, fear isn't your signal to stop. It's your signal to stretch.
Yeah.
I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I did. And I was rewarded for it. First, personally, because I didn't die and I didn't get pregnant. But I also was rewarded because I was well received. And I think that was just based on the fact I was giving it my best, my imperfect best.
Mm-hmm.
And that authenticity is going to rule the day. Even if you stumble over the words and forget what the next section was in your speech, whatever it might be,
Yeah.
authenticity rules the day.
100%.
How about
Yeah.
you?
I think for me, I was probably, I don't remember how old I was, but I was living in Germany at the time and my German was not the best. And I remember one specific moment. I said, Ich bin kalt. I am cold. Not how you say it. In German, you would say mir ist kalt. Me is cold versus I am cold because I am cold means I am a biatch.
Oh, oh.
And so we had the window wide open and I said, Ich bin kalt. And my whole office just burst out laughing. And I was like, what did I say now? And then once they got done in their hysterical laughter, they were like, you just called yourself a bitch. And I'm like, yeah, cool. I've called myself worse. So we all had a good laugh about it. But it was one of those moments where you go, man, I just keep screwing this up. But other people are entertained by it. So I guess it's cool. But it was ridiculous as it sounds. That was one of those moments where I started to go, what can I learn from these moments of imperfection versus where am I going to screw up next? You know? Like, and I was often hesitant to speak German with my colleagues because I wanted it to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And so it is really interesting. I'm actually coaching someone right now who's from another country who wants to work on their English, and he speaks English beautifully, but in the back of his head, he's constantly apologizing. I'm sorry, I
Mhm.
don't know if I'm picking the right words. I'm like, I totally get it. I really do. I understand. But it's fascinating. This guy speaks five languages. Five languages. English is his fourth language that he learned. And he speaks it beautifully, but there's that perfectionism of people are going to judge me. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a new job because I don't speak English perfectly. And it's like, I know native English speakers that do not speak English perfectly.
Yes, yes.
We all stumble, we all falter. And when I moved back to the US from Germany, I was finding myself translating conversations. So there was these long, awkward pauses because I got so used to thinking in German that now you're speaking English to me and I'm still translating. How am I going to respond in German? I'll have to do that. So,
No,
but it's just that perfectionism is really interesting. But I think for me, it was that the question was, what can I learn from my imperfection?
yeah.
I am beautifully flawed. What is that saying? The beauty is in the mess, something like that. Like, yeah, my life is messy and it's okay.
Yes, yes.
I don't need to be perfect. I'm never going to be perfect, so I've stopped striving for it. What matters to me is the impact I have on the people around me.
Yeah.
And yes, I strive to have a positive impact, and there's sometimes where I don't even do that. But and then I think with that comes that vulnerability.
Yes.
And that vulnerability can be really scary for people because you're putting yourself out there and going, take me as I am. And some people are going to be like, hell no.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
other people are going to be like, come here, let me give you a hug. It's okay.
And I'm facing that, have been facing that as my outreach has gone more across the internet and speaking on stages and whatever,
Hmm.
that much more opportunity for imperfection to shine brightly, and the differing of opinions, etc. All of that just comes down to, for me, one point, which is I'm bringing my best every time. And if I'm not at my best and I know it, I can also acknowledge that and not have any issue with expressing the fact that I'm just a little off my game today. I'm a half a bubble off center,
Hmm.
but it's still okay because you're still getting authentic me every time.
Yeah. I want to call you in a little bit on language that you used, if I may.
Of course, coach.
I do my best every time.
I know.
Isn't that a little bit perfectionism?
It could be. It could be. I think for me, it feels like I'm bringing everything I have. So it is the best. So I will cogitate on that.
And for me, it just might be me, but when I think of I have to do my best, I want to do my
I want
best.
to do my best.
So for me, I think about back to my pickleball conversation on Friday, right? I think I'm doing my best, but I don't know, but I'm not as good as everyone else. So when I think about the best, it's still putting pressure on myself to show up in a very specific way versus I'm going to just bring all of me to this feels a little bit different. There's no pressure. I can easily bring all of me to any situation, but do I have to bring the best of me every single time?
And that ends
Does it
up being
have to be the best?
right.
Because then that goes, oh, now that's going to create judgment because I made a mistake. So that wasn't my best. Like the words, that neuro-linguistic programming, right? Those words can
Hmm.
trigger thoughts for us and can trigger that I want to do my best, but I didn't because I made mistakes. And then the judgment starts to come into play. Just think about
I, I,
it.
I love it. I love it. I leave every one of our conversations a better person, more
Thank
reflective, more understanding, more inquisitive. So thank you.
You're
Call me out
welcome.
anytime.
Call you in.
And that's
Call you
right. Call
in.
me in.
I don't call people out anymore. I used to, and not always in the nicest of ways. I will
Yeah,
fully
right.
admit that. I am a long work in progress.
Well,
But
let's. So, what are some tips that we could share with our listeners?
I think it's really important to recognize that letting go of perfectionism is not easy. Clearly, we're still talking about it. You know, it's something we've both been working on for a long time. But recognize that it is really freeing. It can open doors to authenticity, connection, more
Hmm.
importantly, self-acceptance. We're never gonna be perfect beings ever. And when you can recognize that and you can start to set some standards for yourself and practice some of those reflection questions, what can I learn from this imperfection? What's good enough? Maybe what's good enough for the situation. I think about when I was working on my PhD, my dissertation, I wanted it to be perfect. And my mentor said to me, Shelley, you got to think about this like a dance and you don't know the steps. It's never going to be perfect. And I was like, oh, that is a tough pill to swallow.
Hmm.
A tough pill to swallow. It's not perfect. I go and I look at it today and I'm like, well, there's a typo. That's not what I wanted to say. I should have said that differently. So just recognize that it's empowering to not be perfect. It really is. And when you think about like those actionable steps we can take to challenge perfectionism, be realistic. It's about progress, not perfection. I don't know how many times I've said that in my life. And I think when I think about leaders in the workplace with whom I respect the most, those are the people that can admit their mistakes and share them with you and
Hmm.
talk with you about them and acknowledge, hey, I screwed this up and here's what I did and here's how I fixed it and here's what we're going to do going forward. Those are the people I respect, not the ones that sit there and point fingers at everyone else
Hmm.
because they're perfect. What would you add to that?
Recognize the opportunity to learn from yourself about what it is that drives you toward that perfection target, and then
Hmm.
pick something like the last episode, right? Find something in that. What is driving that move toward perfection, that holding self back until I think it's perfect? Find one element of that and do some kind of ceremony to let it go
Hmm.
and see what happens. First off, it'll be okay. We can tell you that.
Yes.
But more importantly, it is releasing you from some weight that you don't need to be carrying.
Hmm.
It's going to hold you back. That's not what you want. I'm fairly certain if you're listening to this podcast, you are in some way, shape, or form unapologetically a rabble rouser. So let go of the stuff that's not serving you in that. And perfectionism is not.
No, we're not meant to be perfect. We're meant to be real.
So here's to real. I'm Carla Lewis.
I'm Doc Shelley. If you like what you're hearing, share the episode with your friends, give us a like, hit that subscribe button, and share with us how you're gonna take off your mask and how you're doing with it. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Perfection is not even achievable. None of us are perfect. None of us are ever going to be perfect. And having that mask of perfectionism is really keeping you stuck in a cycle of self criticism. And it's robbing you of your joy, your creativity, and the ability to really connect with other people. The promise of perfection lies in security, and it's a fallacy.